Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, where you can awaken your mind to clarity and success even in today's life challenges. We're here to provide insights and solutions that will help you live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hello, everybody. This is Joanne Victoria with the Sanity Project podcast. You're here to discover a life of clarity, confidence, sanity, and entrepreneurial success. Our guest today is Rob Cook. Rob Cook is a CPA and CFP whose mission in life is to help families build real, meaningful legacies. By day, Rob strives to help families build legacies, and by night, he is the host of the Contenders Wanted podcast. The Contenders Wanted .com podcast is a show dedicated to showing the world that you can have meaningful success without sacrificing what is most important in life. Through Contenders Wanted, Rob strives to help listeners go from the contender to champion in their own lives, and by doing so, begin creating their own meaningful legacies. Welcome to the show, Rob Cook.
Well, thank you, Joanne. I appreciate the invitation.
Well, I appreciate you being here because the topic that you have is important to a great percentage of people in the world. So, how did you get to be a CPA? Did you follow in your father's footsteps or something like that?
The short answer is no, definitely not. So I come from just kind of your typical middle-class American family. My dad was a tractor salesman for Caterpillar, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. I was fortunate enough to be able to have those two things in my life as a kid, and I counted it one of my greatest blessings, actually.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. I grew up in this small town of about 6,000 people and had most of my family within about a 5-mile radius of me. So I was very close with all of my aunts and uncles and my cousins. I mean, 2 of my cousins are considered my best friends to this day. And that's just kind of the way life was. I didn't know any different at the time, but it was a bit unusual. I found out later. But ultimately came to becoming a CPA because I went off to school thinking I wanted to be a dentist. I grew up in a family that was entrepreneurial, that was very family centric. And so although I never knew exactly what I wanted to do in life, I always had some specific criteria. Like I wanted to be able to own my own business. I wanted to be able to set my own hours so that I could be my kid's soccer coach or baseball coach. And I wanted to be able to serve in my church. And I wanted to be able to make enough so my wife didn't have to work if she didn't want to. If she wanted to work, good for her. But if she didn't want to, I wanted that to be able to be an option. And dentistry seemed to kind of fit that mold. But I got into the program. I got into the kind of the undergraduate programs that would eventually get me into dental school, and realized, I need a business skill set if I'm going to actually be able to run my business one day. And so I decided to major in accounting instead. Mm-hmm. And I kind of had a natural knack for it. I love the fact that accounting is the language of business. And for the first time in my life, I felt like something that seemed so opaque, so just impossible to understand, suddenly had some clarity to it. It was like, because I can read financial statements, I actually know what's going on in a business.
Isn't it fun to read financial statements?
Oh, I love it. It was amazing. I remember as a kid, my family used to call me Mr. Did You Know? Because I used to love to figure out and learn new things all the time. Hey, did you know this? Hey, did you know that? And just all sorts of random junk. And so I loved being able to suddenly look and go, hey, did you know that this company did X, Y, and Z? Like to this day, I will still nerd out on 1040s. 1040s on tax returns or 10Ks. Like, hey, check this out. Look what this company said. That's ridiculous, isn't that? Or like, oh, come on. And I'm a total nerd. I'm nerding out here. But I loved it. I love being able to understand it. And so when I wound up one day almost falling asleep while standing up, job shadowing a dentist, I realized, why am I doing this? I'm sure I could find a career path that fulfills my requirements, but I can actually do something I enjoy. So I went all in on accounting, but knew that long term, I didn't really want to be an accountant. I want to be able to help people. I want to be able to make a difference. I want to help them grow. And most of accounting is inherently backwards looking. It's reporting on the past. It's reporting on what's already happened. And not very much of it gets to be, forward looking. Later in your career, you can eventually, but even then, sometimes you don't get the opportunity to do that. And so I started to look around and try to see where I could apply my skills. And I eventually realized that, I think I kind of want to get into wealth management. I love personal finance. I was the kind of kid in college that I nerded out on my budget Like I had $10,000 saved when I married my wife my last year of school.
Wow.
Like that's just the kind of the guy I was. I worked all through school, summer jobs, also while I was working, got good grades, got some scholarships and various things, and saved as much money as I could. And I wasn't like a, total penny pincher. I was having a good time. I was having fun, but to me, that was important. And I wanted to master personal finances. And so I thought, well, I'll just kind of merge these couple of passions, kind of personal finance and some business and finance to some extent. And let's become and I loved investing in various things. So let's become a financial advisor. I'll help people create wealth. Was what was going on in my mind. That's the thing that I'll do. Because one of my criteria was always, I want to do something meaningful. When I got into dentistry, that was in part because when I got my braces off as a kid, it gave me such a huge confidence boost because I had been this goofy, tall, lanky, zit-faced, big-footed kid. When I got my braces off, I was like, hey, cool. This is the first little boost of confidence I ever got as a kid. And so I wanted to give that to other kids. So I thought, I'll become a wealth advisor because then I can help people with their finances. I can help them create wealth. I can help them change their families' lives. That would be something worth doing. But then an interesting thing happened. Got in the business. I was fortunate enough that I got an opportunity to work with a really great firm in the Sacramento area where I'm originally from. Great shop, kind of the largest regional, what's called RIA. That means Registered Investment Advisory Firm. It means it's not a big bank like a Merrill Lynch or a Morgan Stanley, but it's also not an insurance company like a Transamerica or a Northwestern Mutual. They're kind of like this little hybrid that sits in between in the industry. And started working with them. Loved it. Dove right in, got my certified financial planner designation, got all of my securities designations, got my insurance license, got all the stuff I needed to do to be able to become a financial advisor and just diving in. Well, during the workday, on my lunch breaks, I'd go out to my car and I'd sit there and I would read. Once again, I'm a nerd, Mr. Did You Know? And I would read all sorts of books on investing, on finance, on self-help, all sorts of things. It's just, I love that sort of stuff. And I picked up this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad one day. Of course, right? And Robert Kiyosaki went on to blow my freaking mind over the course of the next 3 weeks. Well, not even 3 weeks. I probably read the whole book in 3 days, and then I went back and then just slowly redigested everything over the course of the next couple of weeks. And he exposed to my mind, my young mind, principles and concepts that I could not believe that I had never seen. By this point, I was a CFP and I'm a CPA. I have a master's degree in accounting.
We don't know. Isn't it amazing we find stuff?
Oh my gosh.
Why don't I know that?
Yes.
I'm smart.
I had worked 3.5 years in one of the largest accounting firms in the world. I had a master's degree from one of the top 3 accounting programs in the country. I'm a CPA and a certified financial planner. And in 150 pages, this man completely changed the way that I view the world.
Amazing.
Suddenly, those financial statements that I had loved when I was going through school, just to be able to understand what was going on from a business, suddenly I could see them on the personal side. Suddenly, I saw that they have applications for the wealth that we create individually. And all of a sudden, I had this realization that a financial advisor doesn't actually help people create wealth.
Okay, I'm waiting for it.
I looked around, and now I say that not to knock on the industry. Okay, there are a lot of wonderful men and women who help people every single day with their finances in some form.
This is me telling you, you don't have to apologize for anything ever again.
Well,
seriously.
I feel like I should lead with that caveat. I was in the industry for 3.5 years, but it was within this first year of me being there that all of a sudden I was like, wait a second. I got into this because I want to help people create wealth. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, a financial advisor, most financial advisors, not all, but most financial advisors and financial planners are there to help you preserve your wealth. Some do try and help you create wealth by doing some budgeting or some debt elimination and various other things. And those are valuable and important in that process. But I was talking about creating wealth, really creating wealth, really moving the needle for people in their lives, solving that money problem so that it's not this burden that so many families carry. It's one of the number one reasons why people get divorced in our society nowadays, because it's such a problem. I wanted to solve that and help people with that. And I realized that at least in my current firm, as much as those people were wonderful and amazing, I wasn't really going to be able to do that. I realized that it was a guy like Robert Kiyosaki and the way that he viewed the world was very different from the way that these financial advisors that I was working with viewed the world, viewed investing, viewed money, viewed wealth, viewed legacy. And I realized in that moment that Robert Kiyosaki was the rich dad and all these other financial advisors were a different version of the poor dad.
Mm-hmm.
And not that
was the safe. They were the safe people.
Oh yeah, 1,000% the safe.
Very
people.
Safe, and then helping others, keep everything very safe.
Keep it safe. Keep it safe. Diversify.
Oh,
right.
Scary word.
It has its place, in my opinion, but not as often as we sometimes think. Right. And all of a sudden, I thought, well, what am I going to do? I felt like I had woken up. I had taken the little blue pill, right? Or is it the red pill from the Matrix?
I'm
taking the red pill, and all of a sudden, everyone else around me is taking the blue pills.
Right.
I'm thinking, oh crap, what am I going to do? And I struggled with that for a long time because then all of a sudden, here I was trying to grow a book of business to become a financial advisor, and I did not believe in my product anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't believe it. I thought I could not look a person in the eye and go, yes, you should hire me to manage your finances. That in the back of my mind, I was saying that a monkey could do. Not that, there isn't some value for, offloading the work to someone else, but there's no realistic way that they're going to help you create wealth or really beat the market or anything like that sometimes gets portrayed out there. And I didn't know what to do. So I tried to figure out a way to be entrepreneurial and do it myself. And maybe I will charge for advice and I'll give people advice the way that I think advice needs to be given. But my firm didn't really like that. And even though I got interest from plenty of other people, they said, no, you can't do that. For example, I had an Apple employee that I had networked with who really liked me and liked my background and my expertise and liked the way that I viewed the world and wanted to hire me and pay me about $15,000 a year just for advice.
Mm-hmm.
But my firm said, no, he has to either pay you $5,000 for a retirement plan that he doesn't want, or he needs to sell some of those Apple stock options that he has and give you $500,000 to invest for him.
Oh, please.
And then that's exactly what I said. Oh, please, come on. I'm not going to tell him to do that. That'd be ridiculous.
Aside from being rude. Yeah,
that too. So I decided to try and create something where I could at least share a little bit of that message that little bit of the knowledge that I had started to gain. Because once I had read that book with Robert Kiyosaki, then all of a sudden I started to devour everything that I could find around me where someone had taken the red pill. Whether it was podcasts, it was books, it was seminars, it was courses. Suddenly this whole other space opened up to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was considered the radical one in my office because I started posting on social media about how, diversification is great, but that's not going to create wealth. Hey, you can't say that. Right? Or, another, simple example is you don't want to be self-employed. You actually want to be a business owner. Like, wait, what? You're thinking Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant. We want to go from employee to self-employed to a business owner to an investor. You don't want to just stay a self-employed or an employee. You're going to get killed in taxes and all sorts of other things. They didn't like that. And so that's why I created Contenders Wanted. I had always loved podcasting. I was one of those that I listened to them religiously long before they were ever popular. Probably 2010 is when I started listening to them. And so I'd always had this dream that I would start a podcast one day, but I never knew what to talk about. And so the pandemic hit and I thought, what the crap? I'm just going to do it. Why not? My firm wouldn't let me talk about money explicitly at first because they had all sorts of rules around it and they wanted to control what I was going to say and what I wasn't going to say. And I didn't really want them to. So I just made it about general success without sacrificing what's most important. And I have had wonderful conversations with wonderful people, but inherently they were always with people who had made it, who had taken the red pill, that saw the world a little differently. And then I realized that there was a whole part of my philosophy that had come and carried with me as a kid. My grandfather had been this entrepreneur, had built this very successful business. But for him, faith and family was always first. And he instilled that in all of us in our family. And I realized that there was a part of this group that was creating wealth that did it in a way that sacrificed those things accidentally along the way, sometimes not accidentally. And I felt like there's got to be another way. There's other people that do this, that go this route, that want to do it the right way. They're just more quiet. I don't want to give voice to them. I want to share these truths that I found, and I want to give voice to those people who do it what I think personally is the right way. Create the wealth, create the legacy, the long-term financial freedom that we're all hoping for, but do it in a way that maintains the love, the connections, the things that honestly at the end of the day matter the most.
Well, the bottom line to what you're saying is what I advocate, which is your business fits into your personal life, not the reverse. And the people that do the reverse are the ones that fail and lose their families in one way or another.
Agreed.
So it's not, it's okay for you to do that, to help people build their legacy within the confines of family first. And whether it's family and faith, because everybody's got one or the other. I mean, family, one or the other and a type of faith. Mm-hmm. It's the way it's supposed to be, in my opinion.
I agree.
So so if somebody wanted to find out how to do, how to build their own legacy, what do they do? How do they find you? And are you doing this? Are you still working at the place where that it won't allow you to do anything, or are you working on your own, or what are you doing?
Yeah, great question. And the short answer is I'm not there anymore.
Okay.
You probably could have guessed that just based off of the way I was talking about it. They were all wonderful people and I loved them, and I got some great experience and learned a lot there in different ways. But ultimately, I actually wound up stepping away from that firm about 2 months ago, almost 3 months ago now at this point. Good. And I joined a software firm that sells the software to financial advisors, to the types of financial advisors that I feel like are trying to do it the right way. That's not all this investment centric, but it's more advice centric, trying to actually help people and give them just good advice. And so I left my firm. I joined this tech company, became a partial owner in with it, and we're trying to grow that and change the financial services industry now. And on the side, I still run my podcast and I still help people and provide advice through that now.
Why don't we say also instead of on the side? Because it's not on the side. This is not a side hustle. This is becoming a predominant hustle. It may be a third. There may be something else coming up, but it's, it's real.
Oh yeah. It's real.
I think
to me.
After right now, you're almost to the 50 episode mark, so that you have, you have truth on your side there, and it's working. I, listened to portions of one and saw the bio, saw all the information, etc. And, you're there. So, you do the best you can until you learn the next step, just like you did when you got Kiyosaki's book. You thought you knew all that you needed to know about whatever you were doing at the time, but then you discovered, there's another way, and you will have more ahas along the way.
Of course.
It's like, oh my God, look what I discovered.
Oh yeah.
And that everybody else has known maybe for the past 5 years, and I didn't because I was working. Mm-hmm. So if people want to find you, where would you tell them to go?
I say come in and find us at contenderswanted.com. You can sign up for our weekly newsletter that we send out that's got all my social media posts if you want to, learn any of the particular tips and tricks and kind of uncovering some of these kind of half-truths that are out there in the industry that I share. I'll share bits and pieces from the various episodes, and I try and leave you with a thought to consider over time. There's a great newsletter by a guy by the name of James Clear, Atomic Habits. I don't know if you're familiar with that book.
Yes.
His newsletter is most wisdom per word on the web is his tagline. And although I can't claim that like he does, I hope to have an equivalent. So it doesn't take too much space in your inbox, but it's definitely worth your time every time you open it.
So how do people create their own meaningful legacies? What is a step?
Yeah, I think the first step is to begin with the end in mind. I think there's a couple ways to do that. The first, I think, is actually to put yourself at the end of your life and think, what do I want people to say about me? What do I hope I have accomplished 80 years from now, 50 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever that might be for you? What do I want people to say? Imagine you write your own eulogy, or you write a letter to your children at the end of your life. What would you want to be able to say? What would you hope to be able to pass on to them? And think more than just money. Money is one part of your legacy. There's also memories, and there's lessons, and there's history, and there's culture, and so many other things you could look at. But think of it all. What do you hope someone will say? What do you hope that will be your legacy at the end? And then pull it back decade by decade and think, where would I need to be for that to be the eventual goal? Until you come back to the present, and then take a look at how you spend your day today. Because I firmly believe that a legacy is not a future thing. A legacy is created in the present moment. And so if you want to create your legacy one day, you must do the things today to create that legacy in the future. And if your actions today do not match what you hope to create in the future, you will never get there. But the only way to know where you're trying to aim for and what you should be doing today is to begin with the end in mind, is to begin by imagining that future state, to begin by imagining what you hope for, and then examining what you do on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually basis now. And is that the path that will get you there? Is that laying the groundwork? And if it's not, how are you going to adjust? And if it is, how can we double down in the appropriate areas?
And how can you help people who need help in doing what you just said?
Well, I think sometimes we just need an accountability partner to help us do that, to hold our feet to the fire and make us look at things a little more closely. I think so many of our lives are, there's a saying that the path to hell is paved with good intentions, right? And I think that applies in all areas of our lives.
Absolutely.
Right? Sometimes we underappreciate the value of just accountability. We underappreciate the value of community, of people around us who can help bring us to that spot. So part of what I try to do to help people is that I'm trying to create a community of individuals that want this, a podcast group. And I've got all sorts of things coming out season 3 that I'm hoping to create more of a community where we can engage and kind of do monthly webinars and things together to get together and talk through these issues and struggles and roadblocks we run into as we try to create these meaningful legacies, as we try to solve our money problems without sacrificing those things that are most important in life. And the other part of that is, if you want to work together, we can. I don't do that often because for me, my family is number one. And so I fiercely guard my time. But if you want it, we can do that. It just might cost you a little bit to be able to do that. But that's the main way that I do it. I try to give as much away as I can for free, as much value as possible, help as many people as I can. And then every so often we can talk money if we need to. That's kind of my approach.
You can find Rob Cook at contenderswanted.com, CONTENDERS wanted.com. He is currently on LinkedIn under Contenders Wanted, and hopefully he will be on a couple of more social media platforms to be able to answer more questions because they'll have them. So I want to thank you for being here today, and I want to thank our listeners for being here because they are what makes the podcast work. I ask my audience mostly each and every time to, after they've listened to the guest, if they're more curious, what they need to do is get a pad of yellow paper and a pen and listen to the podcast again and take notes, because you don't know what you missed. And that's where you're going to find all of the meat and the juice in this podcast. I want to thank Rob Cook for being here today, and my audience for being here every time I release a recording. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to AskJoanneVictoria.com to listen to more podcasts. Check out Joanne's coaching programs and get a free copy of her report, 5 Steps to Achieve Life-Work Harmony. That's AskJoanneVictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.